Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another live stream. Today is Monday, May 28th. Let me say that correctly. Memorial Day in the United States, so that has reduced our amount of news down a little bit. Maybe it's even reduced the number of exchanges I've had because I feel like I should have been able to trade one of these. I guess I don't particularly need to switch the two. Well, I guess I can't do anything anyways. I need to destroy a bunch of minions, play a bunch of low-cost minions, and play a bunch of Druid class cards. This is coming back, I guess, on Wednesday, so we are good to go. Let's hop into a game. I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, Druid Paladin? No, that's not Druid. I'd be playing Hand Druid to play Druid class cards, so let's do it. I'm thinking maybe my recording software has, in an update, finally figured out how to use the Hearthstone deck tracker app overlay screen without me instantly at the beginning of every recording reaffirming to use that window. And that does seem like that's the case. What doesn't seem like it is the case, however, is the window is not in the right place. The window for you is right here where it's supposed to be. The window for me, if you imagine where the mouse cursor is, 4 inches to the right on my second screen. And that's some weirdness because now I don't really know where I would trade, like where I put the mouse. Like if I'm hovering over here, it's not really working. I am done with LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens. I don't think I will be playing another LEGO game until I get a new video card, and probably about 4 years. Like, I'm much more interested in building things with real-world LEGO now than I am playing the LEGO games, which in a lot of ways are LEGO for people who don't like LEGO, or just like the minifigs and like the break LEGO. There's never been a really creative element to LEGO games. They tried to add a couple of features in a couple of games that were creative and showed how you actually built LEGO, but it hasn't been implemented well. And the Force Awakens added instead a third person over the shoulder shooting element, which is just like out of nowhere. Doesn't seem appropriate for a kid's game at all. But because I was playing that game, I turned off all the dots per inch resolution on my monitor. So that's why for many weeks we've had the screen just kind of be really small, and arguably it's still not in the right position. I may have to go in there and change it. There's also been a Windows update that changes how some applications are treated as far as whether it ignores the high dots per inch, which I need the high dots per inch because I'm looking at a TV 10 feet away across the room on the wall, so I can't literally read things. So for several weeks I've not been able to really read the cards too well. Not that that's too much of an issue, but it has just been kind of a struggle in general.
Thank you.
Let's see if we can just click here and get that to work. Yes. By the way, 9 minutes ago, Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2 Episode 10 aired on my channel, so almost certainly no notification, which means there's probably a good chance that nobody's seeing this. which frankly on a Memorial Day weekend was a decent chance there wasn't going to be anybody who saw this stream anyways. It seems like as long as I stay clicked on my Chrome browser on the other screen, I can read things, but every time I click over here, it is going to bring up the Hearthstone deck tracker in the wrong place, which is right over the screen. Now I am playing ranked right now. You might as well play ranked. Memorial Day play could be very bad today, or it could be rather good. We'll make a little bit of progress on everything good. It could be that a lot of people are playing, or it could be that a lot of people are not playing. Now I had a bit of a celebration, almost, at least for me, being involved in this party, and there were several people involved. At least for me, it really had nothing to do with Memorial Day. If anything, I was upset with having this on Memorial Day because I didn't want to drive around while other people might be drinking excessively and potentially increasing the odds of car wrecks, or shooting off fireworks or shooting off guns in the air, which also increase the danger, which all of those are tiny insignificant dangers that you should not base your life choices around, but you consider it. That you can be a little bit more safer to have this. But I went to this party and we cooked hot dogs and the general American food, and barbecued the hot dogs quite well. They tasted way better. I told them to cut little slits in the hot dogs because I saw that on a cooking show that it gave them more flavor, and it certainly did. And barbecuing them was way better than what I had eaten hot dogs a couple weeks earlier and just cooked them on a stovetop grill basically, and it did not have any flavor at all. It was very bad, and that's my at most annual eating of hot dogs because I don't like hot dogs. They're cheap processed meat with too much salt in them. I'll eat them once. They tasted really good, but I just had, because I'd seen a cooking show, a desire to eat them once. Apparently, there's a family rumor that I used to eat hot dogs directly out of the refrigerator, just the hot dog wieners, when I was a child, so they eventually had to get a different refrigerator that I couldn't, as a 2-year-old, open and just grab whatever I wanted to eat. Yeah. And apparently even the pediatrician was going, your cholesterol's too high. I'm like, oh, jeez. Obviously nobody was paying attention to their kid at that time. If I can just wander around as a 2-year-old and grab food out of the kitchen, it means I could have wandered around and grabbed knives out of the kitchen too, grabbed a fork, stabbed it in the outlet. But I kind of already knew that was the case. Let's talk about video games instead of historical bad parroting. Bandai Namco, according to Gematsu, is considering Sword Art Online games for the Switch. The company is considering if it would be a positive outlook. I think in a real way they are going to have to jump on Sword Art Online games, and generally in Japanese franchises, particularly manga anime franchises like this, you jump on it and you make games for everything and you sell because you know Sword Art Online as a series may continue for a very long time, but it's never going to have an increase in popularity. Sword Art Online is a great example of that because .hack/whatever There was several games by different subtitles. All was this huge anime that was really popular because it got mostly some Western coverage and aired on Cartoon Network, and they sold, but nobody is going to try and make a new .hack game or a new .hack anime. Instead, what happens is you make Sword Art Online, which is just ripping off the general idea, which all of these ideas are isekai is what they're called, ideas as far as animes. Another world animes. You get into another world either by magic or by VR or by some other circumstances, and because you're in this other world, you can live a completely different life than what you would be expected or what you would assume you would have in Japanese society. And then with the isekai scenario, you often get it partnered with a harem scenario where you're in a different world and you're special, therefore you're also getting a harem of girls or even guys, if that's the type of show you're making, that follow you around and look at you adoringly.
Try one.
Which too has a lot of roots to what a realistic Japanese society wants versus what they create for themselves and get, where for the most part, once you're out of school, you're not really dealing with any females other than your co-workers, and then you wouldn't date your co-workers because that would cause rumors and embarrass you, and you wouldn't date anybody in school because that would cause rumors and embarrass you. There's really no scenario at all in Japanese society to date people too much. Also in Japanese society, 2 dates and you're married, basically. If you go on 2 official dates, you're boyfriend and girlfriend as far as their society is concerned. So there's not a lot of room for experimentation, dealing with people, learning to get along. Best you can try is like group outings, and not call them a date, but there's not a lot of that happening either. Remember, Japanese schools also heavily push you to do activities, club activities, which then puts you with more of your school friends. It's just a really bad system, and there's really no opportunity to meet anyone, and that's why anime is so popular, is because it is literally down to the point of a fantasy that you will find or be able to find that many potential wives, girlfriends, whatever. And then later on, it doesn't get talked about too much, but there's literally just no like support for women in Japan if they're working. There's like no maternity, paid maternity leave and support there to let a woman have a job and have a child and have enough income to have any kind of independence. So women in Japan, as I've heard it explained, have to, if they want to have a child, they basically have to give up any kind of financial independence and solely rely on a man. But let's just go with man. There's not a lot of homosexual relationships in Japan, but she would have to rely on the man to bring home all the cash. Now in Japan, though, it is kind of weird because the man brings home all the cash, but it is societally expected that the woman actually handles all the banking and accounting, and so she literally gives him an allowance from his own paycheck. But that being said, there's really no financial independence there. There's no Murphy Brown-esque, Murphy Brown, that's an old reference, scenario where in the Murphy Brown TV series in the later seasons, she got pregnant from a surrogate, I think, or the father wasn't involved at all, and she had the child, and she continued to work her job as I believe she was a news reporter. There's just no way to do that. Boy, is that a strange rant, but there frankly isn't that much news today, because of the Memorial Day, so I guess that's fine. So yeah, it's kind of weird that Bandai Namco hasn't already started development for the Switch. The only thing I could think is that Sword Art Online has already begun development through the, like, perhaps through cell phone versions, and so maybe they are going, they've overcommitted to making cell phone games, and they're thinking there's really no reason to make a Switch game. I would heavily disagree. I think it is definitely still a very different market for if somebody would buy a game for the Switch, which, face it, right now there's not a lot of Switch games that would compete, particularly since the Switch is doing a lot of eShop and like, they're doing a lot of eShop and indie games. Besides the Nintendo first-party titles, we're not seeing a lot of anime games on the Switch yet. We're not seeing a lot of other other Japanese companies on board. Everybody was late to the Switch, certainly, because frankly the Switch just doesn't look very powerful. The fact that Resident Evil 7 is the streaming edition is another example of people coming late to the Switch and just not knowing how to develop for it. It frankly shouldn't be too difficult to develop for the Switch past developing for a cell phone, because they're both cell phone processors. But maybe there is something in the Tegra that's a little bit different. In comparison, Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet came out for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, so they certainly are pushing that forward. What's funny here is the pictures showing the original cast of Sword Art Online, and that's not the story that's airing right now. It's right now we're doing Sword Art Online, Galgun Online, the side story, which is a completely different character that maybe will sell better than the original characters. Maybe not. Depends kind of what the Japanese audience wants. Really is quite a non-story that Bandai Namco considering Sword Art Online games. It's an entire article based on let's see, I believe a single response through a fan question Q&A, like just to say we have nothing to announce at this time. It would have been the exact same similar thing to say. Just click through all of these really quickly and see we've got like 9 druid cards. I do have work today. I need to chop up all the, like, basically past month's worth of Hearthstone videos, chop them up, maybe start them uploading, and then I think I'm going to Borderlands 2. I was thinking maybe playing Brutal Legend to be something in between Darksiders 2 and Borderlands 2, but I feel like I've had enough of a break between the two that, yeah, it may be just time. Also, I believe Borderlands 2 is installed on my computer because of the spring cleaning sale, and that works well for me, I guess. We have a game on Steam. This is, I don't know what you call this. It's called Triggering Simulator, 33% for $2 off. It clearly is designed to be, I think, offensive, but I'm not even 100% sure. Let's see what the Triggering Simulator is. A very short first-person shooter with poor level design, terrible gameplay, and optimization, and broken AI. A trash tier game for hardcore asset flippers known. Let's see. And then they're naming themselves. Okay. Yes, this is a fake game. But they're even now at their own point pointing out fake games. Which there is something, I guess, to say there about that. The Screen 7, the person behind Screen 7, which is the publisher, I believe, of the Cat Lady, if I'm recalling correctly, decided to make a trailer combining a lot of the trailer videos that of terrible games coming out on the 28th, which would be today. So a lot of terrible games promising to come out when I guess they assume that nobody is looking, which might very well be the case. As far as we know, the employees, if there are any employees that look at games as they come out at Valve, may have taken the day off. And so he's pointing out bad games and kind of pointing them out to Valve, and I responded back, and because I've been on that same mental journey. At a certain point, it does, as somebody who's looking at all of the games that come out, basically, it does occur to me maybe I should just start flagging games, although there isn't really a flag that's appropriate for games that are extremely low effort, or start pointing them out to Valve. But in the end, as I was about to send out a similar tweet, the letter came out that has now been rescinded from Valve, that all of the well-selling visual novel games, sex games on Steam, arguably it was more sex games and not a ton of them were actually visual novels, but they got mislabeled as visual novels in a lot of reports. A lot of those companies got letters saying they were going to be kicked out of Steam after being on Steam for years, and then they got a rescinding letter saying we're reevaluating games, which is still not a firm that was a complete mistake, you have nothing to worry about response. It's and a lot of people did not cover it accurately there. As far as we know right now, or tomorrow, the same games that got the letter would get another letter or just be kicked off directly. And I imagine if Valve learned anything, it probably would be better to kick them off directly and do it in one fell swoop on a Friday instead of sending letters. The lawsuits will probably come flying regardless, so you might as well just bear the brunt of the bad curse in one step versus the other. Maybe it was a internal dispute that became an external dispute, and some people wanted to kick off those games and some people don't. Ideally, I think there is a group in Valve, and this is what I told Screen 7 is like, I was going to report all these low effort games, but I cannot trust some of Valve to not use / misinterpret a call to ban or censor bad games as an excuse, as a reason, or to ban or censor good games such as your own. So it's just better not to be the voice of censorship. Now, is any of this actually going to be heard by Screen 7? I don't know. I tweeted them. Maybe they blocked me. Maybe they muted me. Maybe they did that a long time ago.
I don't need any of you.
We will have to see if there's any kind of response on Twitter to my comment. But the thing is, as best as I can tell, from an outside perspective, I think there is a group that is at the very least ambivalent, that I would assume is kind of the majority group in Valve, that don't want to ban or censor anything. They just want to leave everything alone. They very consistently in the past and in interviews have just said, we don't want to do something just because we may not like it, because we were very surprised on visual novels and how well they sold, and if they had been left to their own decisions and not let any visual novels in on Steam, they probably would have not made millions and millions of dollars at this point. And so there's that group, which I would call the old group, and then there's a group that I kind of have to call the Campo Santo group, with the understanding that Campo Santo was hired by somebody and brought in, so there probably were some I don't know if I want to continue calling people SJWs or if I should call them progressive extremists. I kind of like the idea of changing my vocabulary a little bit and going away from SJWs to progressive extremists. It sounds a little bit it sounds a little bit more professional. So I feel like there's a group of progressive extremists that may have been involved, may have pushed for Campo Santo to be hired, and Campo Santo we already knew were progressive extremists in their reaction to trying to DMCA or threatening to DMCA PewDiePie because of him saying an offensive word while playing a completely different game. Like causing controversy to the point where Firewatch was the game for Campo Santo was heavily brigaded downward. Surprisingly, now that Campo Santo is part of Valve, Firewatch is back on sale, and Firewatch is rated very highly. So I am not sure if it just naturally the brigading subsided and people forgot about it, and like nobody's gonna waste their time every week writing a new review and buying another copy of the game to review it. So eventually it would get back to a certain level of probably more accurate reviews. Although arguably I'm not sure that Firewatch really should be rated very good at all. It should probably be somewhere closer just to good. It could also be that as soon as they got into Valve, they deleted a bunch of negative reviews. But if they did that, nobody caught it. So that would be the ultimate betrayal too, is that as soon as a company was purchased by Valve, they immediately started doing vote manipulation for their older games. Like that would totally be unacceptable. Moving on, we have PC Gamer 5 new Steam games you probably missed this week. I want to look at this just to see if I missed any of these games. So the list is Raft, we didn't miss that. Unforeseen Incidences, I don't think I missed that one. Egypt Old Kingdom, I think I may very well miss this one. And Slipstream, I don't think we missed this one. And this, that, just keep on doing damage.
For the wild.
Cyrilam 3, I'm pretty sure we looked at that one. And that's it. I went through my wish list, and I'm pretty sure we did see unforeseen incidences, but I'll leave that Steam page open. Egypt, Old Kingdom, I'm pretty sure we didn't see. I went through a lot of games, and I looked at some of them, and some of them have been out for a pretty long time, and they were on the wish list, and they still don't have any reviews. And so as I was going through that, removing things from the follow list, because the follow list doesn't have any value to be used really. I could go back and put a lot of the sex games and the visual novels that I really wouldn't ever cover back on the follow list, and maybe I'll do that, but otherwise my follow list is now empty and it's all just wish listed, and it's probably better to just leave it that way. So what was I going to say? Man, lost my train of thought. No, you gotta play this. And
I don't need any of you.
and that. Yeah, so I went through the wish list and filtered out a few things, removed a few things. For the most part, my wish list is kind of where I guess should be, I would say. For just falling back down the 20, it doesn't really matter. So you need to destroy 3 more minions, and we'll just play Murloc Paladin. It's kind of where it needs to be as far as small games, indie games, and old games, and now it just kind of needs to grow for new games. There were a few games I saw that a year or two ago, or 2 years ago, they were talked about and hyped up a lot by the mainstream gaming media. But they weren't really fan favorites, and there's definitely a disconnect between what fans like, particularly on PC, and what gets hyped, particularly on things like Eurogamer, PC Gamer, and Giant Bomb, which are the 3 mainstream gaming medias that I can bear to still follow. As far as whatever Kotaku, Vice, and other people have to say, I don't particularly follow them at all. And we're trying out TechRaptor, and I'm not even sure I would call TechRaptor mainstream gaming media because it's just too small. It's more independent journalism. And I would say it falls closer to me as an independent journalist than it does
Job's done.
than it does Giant Bomb.
Ash to ash.
That being said, I cleaned up my wish list in the direct intent that the Steam Summer Sale happens and works rather well for everybody. I did all the spring cleaning events and got that badge, and I have the mystery box that came along with that. If the mystery box is some kind of random game, that would be amazing. Right now, for example, is Deus Ex Mankind Divided is on sale, and if I just bought that complete collection, I think I would get the entire deluxe edition of that for less than $20. which is pretty good. At least I know I'd get it cheaper than if I bought the game alone and then got the season pass. However, I literally just don't have the funds. And that is going to be a pretty consistent issue going forward for a while. It's not like my YouTube channel ever really funded my Steam account. That was always investment towards the future, and also the fact that I'm owning games. So it's not like I'm writing the cost of games off as as an expense on taxes or anything.
Smart moves. I concede.
So, but not being monetized and not getting even a few dollars or a few pennies like I used to be. I was getting $2, $3, $2.50 maybe, somewhere around that every rolling 7 days, just on ad revenue. That certainly would have covered a couple of 99-cent games, for however many there were during the summer sales. Now I'm looking at the summer sale and I'm still very much going to just buy the Pinball Arcade Pro Packs to get those tables before they disappear June 30th and nothing else. And I imagine during the summer sale I'm also going to add a bunch of things to the wish list. I think we'll probably have a special video when the summer sale happens too, because those are kind of videos I need to do. Alright, we've got a bit of a challenge here. Win 3 games with the Paladin and Priest. Paladin or Priest. We have a Murloc Paladin. Let's play and see if we can get back up to rank 19. So what is this game? Egypt Old Kingdom. It's a strategy simulator. There's a Great Pyramids pace. I can see why, had I seen this game, which I don't think I did, I could certainly see why I would have skipped this game, because it does, for the most part, look like an Age of Empires type game, except for you're just building and playing on the Nile in Egypt. The graphics look pretty good. And I do have this kind of desire to play more Egyptian-based stories. I'm not sure if I particularly want a strategy simulator there, though. I think would be more interested in just playing a mummy-based game, or a game based on the mummy. Mummy movies, Mummy TV series, the old Mummy movies. Like they have also a game in the bundle called Bronze Age, and a game in this bundle called Marble Age. So it's kind of different ages of the same thing.
Let's move quickly.
Let's see. There's 11 negative reviews to 66 positive reviews on this game. Let's see. It says too many bugs is 1 negative review. So it seems like it's a slightly buggy game, and it's very possible that PC Gamer was just padding out their list of games you missed, because it always has to be like 5 games you missed. Slipstream, I'm pretty sure we talked about. It is a Burnout racing arcade game clone. MAME has an entire emulator just built around making Burnout run smoothly, which that is true for a few games, but certainly not all games. And and it speaks to a niche fan base that I was unaware of for Burnout. Seralim 3 is the procedurally generated RPG maker looking game that looks terrible. We definitely looked at that. Speaking of emulators, the Scum VM team came out and announced what it's almost a disappointing announcement, not for Scum VM but for Cyan and the creators of Myst. They came out and directly said, yes, Real Myst 1 or whatever version of Myst that you're getting in the new releases and bundles of Myst is going to be using the Scum VM engine. Riven, the sequel to Myst, is also going to be using the Scum VM engine when they re-release it, and Myst 3 Exiles, which is a game I don't have right now and want to buy, and I can't really find, it's not on Steam. That is not running on the Scum VM engine, but their spin-off virtual machine called Residual that was designed for 3D rendering for Grim Fandango and basically nothing else. As LucasArts tried to move into 3D animation, it used a slightly modified thing. So the first 3 Myst games, at least 3 versions of the first 3 Myst games, are coming via that. And the reason why that's slightly disappointing is it kind of says that they're probably not putting any new polish in it. They're definitely not running a new engine on it. It would have been asking too much and probably a waste of Cyan's team, since they're a pretty small company. It would have been a waste of their time to say, no, I want you to make the entirety of Myst and Riven in Unreal Engine 4. That's something that would make a lot more sense if it was being done by a fan group or something like that. It's something that I imagine Cyan may at some point do, but it's not part of the 25th anniversary. It doesn't seem like they're doing anything with it. Now, the bigger question is when you get into Uru and Myst 4 and Myst 5, those games more than ever probably do need a lot of work to run smoother and work better. Myst 5 in particular had a drawing mechanic that never really worked, and so if that doesn't get touched and that doesn't get improved on, it's just going to be meh. I think probably it is going to be meh. There's a way overfunding, and so it's going to feel like an under delivery for what they actually deliver for the 25th anniversary of Myst. And in a lot of ways, I don't want Cyan to waste too much time. They're doing what they should do, certainly. They're releasing these games so that they can still make money off of them and people can still play them, but they're not, in my opinion, wasting everybody's the actual developers' time, which certainly is a possibility where you could have a significant number of programmers and new blood, because there really is a second generation at Cyan now. It's really not the people that made Myst that are still working there and running the show. It's new employees that have learned the ropes, and they need to take over. They need to make something more. It was even a little weird when they put out an update for Abduction and added more content. They really shouldn't be doing that. They should be working on their next game, which We know they're working on their next game. I don't know if they've announced a name for it. TechRaptor has an article. SpaceX's Starlink prototype internet satellites are now good enough for gaming. What in particular? Let's see. The first prototype satellite from Starlink broadband internet network were launched by SpaceX 3 months ago, and today Elon Musk has taken to Twitter to share how the twin satellites are doing. The quote is pretty good. Tintin A and B, Tintin being a reference to the British cartoon, I assume.
Reporting for duty. To battle.
Beloved British cartoon character. Oddly never came to the United States. Let's see. Tintin A and B are both closing the link to ground with phased array at high bandwidth. The phased array thing is a relatively new technology where they figured out how to put radio waves inside of radio waves at different phases, which significantly increases the amount of bandwidth available.
To battle.
And apparently it's implemented as a commercial standard faster than I thought it would. Phased array at high bandwidth, low latency, less than 25, or it doesn't say less than, it says low latency 25 milliseconds, which arguably is not low latency compared to a wired connection where you might be getting 13, 8, or less than 10 is ideal. But frankly, even less than 10 inside a home network might not be capable of doing that. But 25 milliseconds is much better than what other satellites were offering, where it was 60 or 80 milliseconds
I will fight with honor.
of latency. And so the quote goes, good enough to play fast response video games. There is, I suppose, always a question about how latency and bandwidth is affected when you start having way too many people on the network. Often networks are hugely overfilled and flooded with the number above the recommended amount of users and the recommended amount of users. There's another quote, will Tintin be only demo units Starlink deploys before the start of full satellite production and development, or will there be a few more? Do you have an aspirational timeline for when Starlink would begin commercial services? Is somebody asking him, and Elon Musk's response is, we'll do another rev before final design. So there's still experimental things, but there is hope in the next decade or so, I would guess. I hope that you might actually be able to get away from your internet service provider and use satellite and get faster speeds with less interference and less, maybe lower prices, but maybe very high prices. That is also a thing, is generally in the United States, if you have satellite internet, it's because it's your only option and you literally cannot compete, and so the prices don't go down due to competition. Arguably in the United States, do prices ever go down because of competition? They say they do, but I think this is more religion than actual truth at this point. Like I have honestly, with maybe the exception of gas prices, which maybe even that isn't due to competition, I've never seen anything in the United States go down, and it clearly, obviously, be because there was competition. It doesn't seem like it's a factor. It doesn't seem like people in the United States price compare enough for that to be a factor. Oops, I should have attacked. Well, whatever. So yeah, it might be incredibly expensive to get satellite internet. It probably will be at the beginning, and it will probably be for way longer than the next decade. Remember, Elon Musk is also the owner of Tesla, and those cars, as cool as they sound, are also extremely expensive, and have that slight problem of the batteries not lasting as long as a potential engine might last. But I'm not gonna poo-poo on progress. There's a game on Steam called Gachi Game, G-A-C-H-I. Is that some kind of insult? Probably, because this is one of those fake games from that that's flooding Steam, so like it looks awful, like all the fake games they make. I'm not really sure why they waste their time.
Incredible.
Like, what are they trying to do? Is this really just an effort from people to ruin Steam? And see, that's the funny thing, is Screen 7 is pointing out a bunch of bad games, and I don't think he got any of the games from two of the major people flooding Steam.
Thank you.
Because I don't think he saw them. I think inherently that is the issue, is that unless you're doing something crazy like me and looking at every single game, or nearly every game that comes out on Steam, you just don't see the bad games. Which means Steam Discovery 2.0 works. And I think for the most part it does. There are a handful of games that come out and nobody sees, and maybe they are good, but in the end we're missing a few hidden gems that are still on Steam. They're just not being promoted by anybody. Meanwhile, all the terrible games are ultimately not being seen by anybody. And it really is just a statement on the games media, particularly the mainstream games media, that have the eyes to do their job a little bit better and start covering games that they just find on Steam, instead of covering games that they're getting paid under the table to advertise, and covering games made by their friends. And it also is a statement, I imagine, on the creators of these small hidden gems to actually advertise their games. But to be fair, I assume a lot of these small-time gem games are sending out press releases to everybody and just being ignored. Let's see, so we've been going 45 minutes. We probably need to keep things pretty tight today, because by the time I am done with the next recording, I probably will be done with news, unless I just hold back and go rather slow, which I have been so far. And we need to play a bunch of druid cards and minions that cost 5 or more, and win more paladin or priest victory. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. When you subscribe, click a notification, click that notification bell. Since YouTube has gone insane with all the garbage it's doing, it's not worth getting into. I am considering making a Google Calendar or an email list directly, so that people can follow that. I'm not sure exactly how I could get the videos to a Google Calendar to set off an alarm so that people could follow that way, but clearly there needs to be some other system introduced so that people actually get notifications, because YouTube in itself is not trustworthy. And it's kind of ridiculous. Like, I'll trust Google Calendar and I'll trust the people that work at Google, but YouTube is just so untrustworthy based on past actions, based on their history, that I won't trust them, and for good reason. The other thing is Steam Summer Sale is happening. Remember, gift me games during that summer sale, or gift me gift cards right now. Either one of those works very well to help me build up games. As I build up more games, I have more options. As I have more options, I play more games. And I'm gonna start playing Borderlands 2, so I'm gonna hit into a pretty hardcore phase of just covering games and trying to make a lot more content. Whereas this past month, playing Lego Star Wars Force Awakens turned out to be a bad mistake of just not being interested in playing at all. If I had, I am at some point going to try and buy a bigger hard drive, SSD, and have 2 or 3 games going at the same time, and keep recordings that way. That way I can switch between a couple of things. That wouldn't have really worked too well with the Lego game anyways, because of all the weird video settings I had to change. That's it for this recording though. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.